a lot of us don't want to be in pain, which is only natural and human, and we want to run away from the pain. So it is actually, when we sit with it, it sometimes can feel strange.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the IWillAim podcast. And our topic for today is healing is not forgetting. Healing is not about erasing the past, it's about learning to live with it differently. In this powerful episode, we sit down with Maria Belanic, who turned her most profound loss into a mission to help others navigate grief with grace, compassion, and courage. Together, we'll explore what it truly means to heal without forgetting. Welcome, Maria.
Well, welcome, Will, and I love your name, IWillAim.
I'm looking forward to our conversation. How about if we kick it off with a quick introduction?
Definitely. So I'm a bereaved mom and certified grief educator. I became a bereaved mom first, and that is, of course, part of my journey in the aspect that my son at 16 was diagnosed with an incurable blood cancer. And for 11 years, we lived with the unknown of what's next, the crises, the hospital, the treatments, all of that. And at 27, he passed away. And that shattered my world. I would say, it's like being a vase and just having it completely shatter. And that's what it felt like, where the world, when we're looking out the window, hasn't changed. And as a griever, we're feeling like we don't belong anymore. Like something is an alien, almost like we're on a different planet. And through my journey, I was in limbo for 10 years. And from that, I chose that, you know what? I don't want anyone else to have to experience 10 years of losing their life because of grief. And that is where where I've noticed where healing wasn't about forgetting. It is quite different. We're taught this myth that when we heal, we forget, and we don't.
Thank you for sharing that challenging story, and I really appreciate what you're doing, helping other people learn to cope and handle grief. Many people associate healing with moving on. You're saying healing is not forgetting. What does that really mean to you and to our audience?
I believe that we're taught that when we heal, it's almost like we have to forget what the experience was that we had. It's this aspect of we don't talk about it. We pretend that everything is fine. So we're wearing a mask, and underneath, many of us are hurting because we cannot share our experience. And when I say healing is not forgetting, is that we can heal our heart and remember the trauma, the experience that we have gone through, and understand going away in about that, saying we're living from a scar now. So rather than having this open wound, it's a scar tissue. I would say, imagine that you cut yourself, right? And when it heals, there's the scar. And we still see that. We still see the scar. We remember that we had cut ourselves. We don't forget it. However, it has healed. And in some ways, that's what healing is about, is that we heal, we have a scar, and we remember, and we can move forward. This is why I don't like saying moving on, because moving on almost feels like we've forgotten whatever the past was.
Well, thank you for sharing that. When you work with people who are grieving, what are some of the common misconception or unhealthy expectation that's part of the grieving process?
Well, many of us, and I was included, we feel that grief has a timeline, that it's a destination, that at a certain point, all of a sudden we'll wake up and magically we're fine. I mean, this is what the world tells us, is that all of a sudden, we have to go through something to get to the other side. Well, what really is the other side? There's no magic solution to grief. It's a journey, as life is. And I always say grief walks with us when we allow it to walk with us. Rather than having it take over our lives, it becomes a companion. And that's one of the myths. Another one is feeling that we're broken and we're going to sit in this pain forever. That is a choice that we can choose. We can choose to either say, yes, I'm going to sit in the pain forever, or choose to say, I can heal in a way that honors myself and the person that I'm missing. And I can move forward in life and live fully and experience joy and experience sadness, because all emotions coexist at the same time.
What you say about grieving walk with us, it's so powerful because it's not something that you either left behind, that you just move on to the next stage. And the way you also mentioned around, we have a choice. We have a choice to go forward and not leave the past behind. It's like one of my friends said, hold on to the memory loosely without letting it go, but learning how to move forward. I think that's super powerful. And thank you for sharing that. For people that are working with someone who's grieving, or family or friends, what's the best way to support that person? Because that often is a very challenging thing, and I experienced it in a workplace, working in a corporate environment, when someone is dealing with a loss. We're all sort of like walking on eggshell. We didn't like know what to do and what to say, and I wish I knew better.
And so true. Most people will either give like the cliches and platitudes, which, even though it's coming from a place of good intention, can actually sound disrespectful to the griever. And in some ways, I'd always say, go from what the griever is, like pick up clues from what the griever is doing. And a lot of times, sometimes what they want to do is talk about their person. Like, be okay with their sadness. Don't make a big production of their sadness. And it's okay to ask them about their person. Or if you're going to ask them how they're feeling, ask how they're feeling today. Always put either today, right now, this moment. So that way they're not going to say fine and pretend that they're in a mask. Yes, work environment is a little bit sometimes different, where no one wants to be uncomfortable. And yet when we give platitudes and cliches to a griever, it actually makes them uncomfortable. I think see them for who they are, like witness their pain, acknowledge it, and don't make a big production of it. Allow them to guide you, so to speak. Like treat them like you would normally.
I love the witness and acknowledgement. And lastly, I think the most important thing is, don't make it a big production. Don't make it a big deal, and have a conversation. I think those are really great lessons for all of us listeners to learn. What's the role of storytelling in your mission as you spread the words and help people learn to embrace the grieving process?
Well, I think as humans, we love telling stories, right? Story is part of being human. And part of the stories is sharing the stories of our loved ones. I would say for people who have children, when you think about it, people still share stories of their children that are alive, of the people that are living right at this moment. And so for a griever, they only have stories up to a certain point. And so sometimes it sounds like we're saying sharing the same stories over and over again. For example, I know for myself and my son, back in the day, we didn't have the cameras that took videos, that took all these photos. I have photos, from the cameras that we actually went out and had them printed. So I'm showing how old I am, or in the dark age that I was in technology. And so things change with technology. And so part of that is that if we're in with the older technology, we have our stories. So sometimes we could not show them in video or pictures. And part of that is, as human nature, we want to share. We want people to ask us about who our person was. Today, for example, I went and looked at something that I must have missed years ago is a counselor that had seen my son in his illness. And the words that he said about my son, even now, they touched my heart. And it was like, wow, this was really nice how someone else had seen him. And that is something that I shared today in a post.
Well, it's just amazing how the power of storytelling sort of allows you to remember, right? To remember the person, and in many ways also honor the person.
Well, and stories actually also show us who the person was. I mean, I always like to share the story that my son's friends would say about my son, how all the girls wanted to date him and all the guys wanted to be him because he was very kind and compassionate and he made everyone feel that they mattered, that they were important. And so that was part
Wow.
of his core personality.
I did remember that you did have that in your speech at SFU, so I remember that. My next question: in moment when grief resurfaces, especially in anniversary and unexpected reminder, how does one ground themselves and reconnect with the peace? Because that's the hardest.
It is. And everyone's going to be different on that. So I do want to first say there is no right or wrong of how someone goes about it. It's really what comes up. Sometimes I always like to say grief is like a wave. When we think of waves, sometimes they are gentle waves. They're just a slow, gentle wave, and we sit with that. Other times they are very stormy, and that's what our emotions are. And so I always say, sit with your emotions as they come up without judgment, and then choose what works for you. Sometimes we just want to sit in them and maybe take them in and be one of those ones where we want to stay in bed and pull the covers over our heads. Other times, maybe we're going to take a walk in nature or even be around close friends that are supportive. So there is no one straight answer. It's what works for you and what are your heart whispers saying?
I love the message. It's what works for you, because that truly what matter at that moment. Finding the support, being able to feel the moment and not fight the emotion. I think that's often a very challenging point. Period.
It is.
For
And
those listening, go
oh, I
ahead.
was just going to say a lot of us don't want to be in pain, which is only natural and human. And we want to run away from the pain. So it is actually, when we sit with it, it sometimes can feel strange.
Yep, it is. For those listening to us right now who are facing some loss in their life, what are some gentle practice that we could help them think about?
Well, I have the Pillars of Care framework. That is an acronym. I always go, for a griever, give yourself compassion and kindness. We are our worst critic. We have things that we sort of feel that we're doing something wrong, that we're out there to fix ourselves. One of the aspects is that you may feel that you're broken. You are not broken, and no fixing is needed. I think we as humans want to find a solution, right? We want to make everything better right away. And in actual fact, we have no control over certain aspects. So give yourself that compassion and kindness that you would give someone else. The A part is about acknowledging. We all have thoughts and feelings and have them without judgment. How many times do we have thoughts that come into our head and all of a sudden we're giving it a negative aspect? And emotions and thoughts are neutral. It's only when we give it meaning. So if we can not judge ourselves on that, then that goes back to the compassion and kindness. And also about releasing the guilt and regret and the shame that we're carrying, either from times from beforehand, or at times we feel that we had control over something when we actually did not. It's the loop of the would have, could have, should have. We all feel that we could have changed history. And I think that's just part of human nature. And E is about embracing who you are being and who are you becoming. I think a lot of times we look at who we thought we were in the past and want to go back to that version of ourselves. And then we're also afraid. We're fearful of the future and what that holds. So a lot of times we feel like we're in this limbo aspect of the in between and we don't know which way to turn. And if we can, and I'm going to use acceptance for lack of a better word, to be fully present in the now of who we are right now. That actually gives us time to be grounded in saying, let's inhale and exhale. Because when we breathe, we're in that moment. We're in the present moment.
Well, thank you for sharing that framework. If for our audience that's listening right now, what are the two takeaways that you want them to walk away with?
One is that grief is deeply personal to you, and also about listening to your own heart whispers. You know exactly what is right for you. No one else can tell you what is right in your own path. And definitely seek support. Vulnerability gives us the freedom to be who we are being. And it's that oxymoron, that aspect, when we think we're trying to be strong. And in actual fact, courage is the vulnerability.
If my audience wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you, Maria?
They can reach out to me. My website is mariabelanic.com. And also my email is hope@mariabelanic.com.
Well, thank you, Maria, for your time. I really appreciate you being a guest on my podcast. Thank you and have a good day.
Well, thank you so much, Will. It has been a fantastic opportunity to be able to speak with you and be on your show.